Hello, so I'm TJPJ Music, and I'm going to be bringing you a tutorial by request on the VST plugins I use for my music. So in this tutorial I'm going to cover 4 VST plugins: Harmless, Toxic Biohazard, Artemis, and Trance Drive. Now it seems I've got them open twice for some reason, so I'm just going to start a new project. Nope, no changes saved. And I'm going to start with Harmless. So Harmless comes with the producer edition of FL, and when you open it up, it's like this. Looks like this, sounds like this. That's really, really, really loud. Much better. Okay, so in order to show you how these work, I'm going to create a pluck and a bass with with each of these plugins. So I'm going to start with the pluck for Harmless. So the basic sound, as you just heard, is here. Right. So because we're creating a pluck, we want a pluck that's going to be short. Pluck is basically a very short sound. So first thing, we're going to put the delay pretty low and the release right down. Now it already sounds like a pluck, but we want it to be a little different than that. So we're going to take this frequency right down to minimum. Makes it far less buzzy. Bring the width up a bit. And basically this is the cutoff frequency and the cutoff width. So it's doing a low pass filter, and the width is controlling how steep it is. But it's a crude low pass filter, so some stuff does get through. It's not a perfect low pass filter. The frequency is just the cutoff frequency. Now we're going to be working with this as well, so we're going to bring this up to max, and now it's going to sound like this. And we're going to bring the delay down, or the decay down. We're going to bring this up here. It's a bit too much, I think. Bring this down a bit. This is basically the envelope for the filter right here. We're also going to bring this up to about 4. This is just the number of unison voices. Makes it sound like it's a little richer. Now we're going to add some chorus. So we're going to use a stereozoid chorus, and we're going to make it pretty quiet. That's just going to make each tone just slightly different, rather than always being the same. We're also going to add a tiny bit of ping pong delay, so bring the volume right there down quite a lot, and the feedback down to about 15%. That's just going to add a little bit of stuff after, so that it keeps going a little longer. We're also going to use small studio reverb. We're going to bring it down as well. And then we can add a warming comp. We're going to put that right up. Or we can bring it down. We have a choice on that one. Just depends how you want it to sound. So there's our pluck. If you want to save it, you can save it right. You can save it by going to Save Preset As. I'm just going to name it Pluck. I'm going to do a bass. So we're going to go back and use the default preset, which is that. First, pitch down negative 1200 cents. Now we're going to put this release. I'm going to bring the release down to minimum. And we're going to remove this. Or alternately, we can just max out that. And we can put that up. I'm going to just try fiddling around with passes here. Different passes here. So I'm going to try going with a classic low pass. And you can see the curve right there. Or the crude low pass. You can see it's got slightly more of a curve right here. Or we can go with the snake low pass. And it gives it a little bump. Fin low pass. That's making the entire thing flatter. Hybrid low pass. Doesn't seem that different from the crude low pass. Leaky low pass. It's just slightly flatter. More buzz. So I'm just going to go with the crude low pass because I like it. And for this, we don't want any chorus, delay, or reverb. It's just going to be a straight up bass. Now let's see. So I'm going to actually use the heating comp right here. And we can drop it down to negative 24. You can also go with the negative 24 if you want to do a sub bass. So I like this bass. I'm going to go with name this bass. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the stuff. We're going to work on Toxic Biohazard. So Toxic Biohazard is a pretty complex plugin. Can do a massive amount of stuff, but it's not a lot of GUI, not a lot of dragging, etc. It's just lots of dials and knobs, that kind of thing. So basically you've got 6 oscillators around the sides here. You've got your frequency modulation right here, mix, pan, and your 2 LFOs. Those are just volume for the tracks basically. Then you've got your LFO controls here and here, and you've got your delay, filter, and chorus. You've also got MIDI controls and sequencing controls. I'm not going to go into sequencing or MIDI. So first thing, we're going to create a pluck. So, well, basic sound, very quiet. It's really, really basic. That's what it comes down to. Not a lot there. Basic sine wave. So we're going to add something. We're going to do something with this. We're going to create our pluck. We're going to bring the mix right down to 0, so it doesn't make any sound. We're going to add a second wave here. So just click on it to make it appear. We're just add a saw wave. And we're going to bring the mix up on that to 100. And it doesn't work because I don't have it selected. For some reason it doesn't work. Oh, oops. LFO, not. Mix, there we go. Mix up to 100. And we're going to put a bit of frequency modulation on that. I'm going to detune this a bit as well. That's from the frequency modulation, basically. So we want to make this a pluck though, and we don't want it to just be. We can make it a pluck pretty easily by dropping the sustain down to near nil and this down to about here. Turn up the master volume to compensate. Basic pluck, but that's not what we want. So we're going to turn the decay. We're going to turn the sustain up to max, decay down to min. Now I'm going to turn the decay on this one down to. So each oscillator has its own decay control, own controls here. So I'm going to turn sustain and release down to nil on that. And for some reason it's not working. Okay, why isn't it working? It should work. Oh, possibly because there's no mix. We disable that and play only this. What happens? Okay, so that works. That's just the sine wave. It's like that. So that's the sine wave, what you're hearing there. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to raise the attack as well, and the decay bring down. The attack's too long there, so it's going to be right there. And sustain and release come right down to 0.1, 0%. The decay will bring it down to half a second, roughly. And we're just going to fool around with this a bit and add some more stuff. So we've got a buzzy pluck. We want to make it a little softer. So we're going to add a sine wave, not there, here. I'm going to add a sine. And we're going to no sustain on that, no release. But we're going to have more decay. So instead of just over half a second, bring the volume down a bit to about 80 here. Now we're going to add the filter. It's going to be a low pass filter. And we're going to have cutoff be about here. And let's add some resonance. Don't need that. I'm going to add a chorus. And we're not going to add any delay. But it's still a bit too quiet now because of the cut, so down to here. So there's your little pluck. Now I'm going to do a bass. So we're going to go back, presets, and well, we can't really set presets here. So preset though is this is sine and it's off. I'm actually just going to close this and create a new one. So replace Toxic Biohazard. And now we've got it set to what it was originally. We're going to create a bass here now. So this bass, we're going to set the second oscillator to be tripow 2. That's what the wave looks like. You can actually create your own personal waveforms if you want to, but you don't need to. You can use the preset ones. So you've now got a sine wave and this tripow 2. Bring the sine wave down to nil. Tripow 2 up to max. So tripow 2 on its own sounds like this. So it's actually a pretty high note. So first we're going to pitch it down to -12. We're also going to pitch this down to -12. Then we're going to add about 95 right here. and we're going to add a tiny bit here on the LFO. And this is LFO 1. So that's the effect we're getting from that. So let me use that chorus. The chorus, we're going to reduce the depth here. And we're going to add a low pass filter. And we're going to increase the LFO 1 mod. That's the bass sound on its own. But what we're going to do with this bass is it's going to actually end up sounding like this. So I'll put something in the piano roll here. Now if we actually cut the high part out of that with an EQ, so mix it into the EQ here now. We're going to cut the high, do a high pass, or we're doing another low pass. This is what it looks like. There we go. And or you can just do basic. That's going to be our little bass. It's going to be a little bit dirty. And we want to detune this slightly as well. And let's see. We want a little bit of delay. And that's basically going to be our bass. It's actually a little. It's not as dirty as I'd like. This should be at 95. So there's our bass. Now just save it. Okay. Okay, so the next plugin we're going to be looking at is Artemis. Artemis is a free plugin free plugin. I'll try to put a download link in the description if I can find the download link. I downloaded it a long time ago. But basically, the basic sound is like this. Sorry. If I could make it work, give me a sec. There we go. Okay, so I guess pluck first, as always. Okay, basically, sustain down to minimum, release down to minimum, decay down to about 4. Now, there's this weird thing where the sustain never goes down to minimum for the first time. I actually want a triangle and oscillator too. And that's the tuning. Let's see. What else do we want to change? This is outputting to both. This is outputting to both. switching it. We want this one outputting to filter 1. This one outputting to filter 2. But we do not want filter 1 and 2 to have the... Where was it? There was something about the... Why can I never find this when I want it? Somewhere in here, there's a mixer. There we go. Filter 2. Maybe pan at 0 if I can. Just 0.04 we'll have to do. And pan at 0. I guess the solution is to move far away. Hard to get. There's no reset capability on the free plugin. On a lot of free plugins, they don't have a reset to 0, so you're stuck like that. So now we've got one triangle. We can also change it to pulse. I personally like the pulse waves. The attack on this one up to 0. Actually, just leave the attack at 0. And I'm going to raise the level of the ring mod. The frequency of the ring mod up about there. Maybe a little higher. I'm going to set this LFO to high rate, about there. And I'm going to have this LFO control the ring mod frequency, about right that much. Also going to turn on the chorus, and after I turn on the chorus, it's a bit annoying, but I need to do that. I'm going to change the cutoff here. We're not going to use the delay or the resonator. Mixer seems about right. I'm going to put filter 1 down and filter 2 up. And I'm going to turn this attack right down because I think it's messing it up. Actually, the attack here is all the way down, which it is. There you go. There you've got your pluck with Artemis. And actually you can reduce the decay further. To make a faster pluck. Let's see if I can reset to... There's no default pluck thing, so I'm going to just go ahead and recreate Artemis, replace with Artemis. Again, we're back to the main sound and we're going to do bass now. So, step 1, release down to 0. There's some modulation in there we want to cut out. So we're going to set this, that's on filter 1. We'll set this to 0 and this to 0. And something still seems to be affected. There you go. Reset matrix. Completely missed that button earlier. Okay. Now, we've got the low pass filter. We're going to bring both of these down like this. I think that's caused by the difference there, but we want to keep these ones panned center. Get it lined up on 0. There we go. And this one. Line it up to 0. There we go. Oh, you're kidding me. This is just this is an annoying part of this plugin. There we go. I don't like the way it keeps filter 2 and filter 1 panned differently. It's nuts. We're gonna bring this one down 2 octaves. That's up 2 octaves. No, down. Set it to a sine. That's already. It's giving you really strong bass. You can hear it's really, really strong bass there. We're gonna cut off on filter 1, nothing. Filter 2, like that. This is gonna be a really strong sub bass right there. Now, if you want to make it not so much of a sub bass, you can change the cutoff here. Cut off here. You can also change the level here to make it less of a sub bass and more of a mid bass. That right there is caused by flanging, which I don't want to happen. There's something there is, there we go, level. Wrong level, I thought that was ring mod. Something is causing a bit of modulation, but it's not a big deal. It actually adds more to the dynamics of the whole thing. So, there you go. There's your bass on Artemis. Of course, you can change it to let's do a pulse. If you want to remove that like super strong down at the bottom. Turn the level back up because I want it to be nice bit strong. The super strong comes from the sine, but you can change it. You can change it to a saw to make it a lot more dirty. A triangle is also a little bit dirty, but not as dirty as the saw. A pulse is going to be your most dirty. Now also, for a bass, you generally want to turn mono on, like that. Because you're working in really low frequencies and harmonics do not work well. Like if I've got mono on or off and I do this, that just does not sound good. Normally it's a nice chord. But turn mono on and you're left with a good note, single note. Now, last but not least, we're going to deal with the Trance Drive plugin. This is another free plugin. I'll try to post the download link in the description. It's another one I use for a lot of my songs. Now, the basic sound you get when you first open it up is like this. Or like this if you hold it. Now, this plugin is a little annoying in that the default has a delay and a reverb both on, and it's a really long delay and a really long reverb. So if you turn all of those off, it ends up sounding like this. I often like to leave the stereo on because it gives it more dimension. Yeah, there are 3 things I use. The only thing I really use this for is its gator. If I turn the gator on, you can get this. the easy to use gator right here. But because we're doing a bass and a pluck with all the plugins I'm teaching you, I'm going to do a bass and a pluck with this. So first thing we want to change is the wave. Right now we've got two of these little waves here, and we probably want to have a sine and two triangles. So we're going to turn on the third oscillator. We get two triangles. So when we play it once, it sounds like this. And I'm going to cut the release out completely, cut the sustain out completely, and fiddle with just the decay. That's far too much decay, so down like. So that's where we're going to start. Now, I'm going to put this one down 2 octaves. And I'm going to add a little bit of frequency modulation, if that works. It's supposed to do something. Well, it didn't work the way I wanted it to. Anyways, I'm going to change the envelope for the modulation. Right down like that. Makes it sound fairly plastic. And I'm going to change the cutoff here, raise it slightly. Oh, a little too high. Brings back a little more metallic, but still too high. There we go. And raise the resonance. Now I can drop the cutoff a little more. There we go. And now we can add any effects we want. The nice thing about this plugin is that it does have all these built-in effects, because these use a lot less CPU power than the effects that you put on the mixer channel. So, like, you can add a chorus. You can add a flanger. You can add phasers. And no, this is not Star Trek. You can add distortion. I don't want the distortion. You can add delay. And this is way too long a delay. I'm going to turn the decay up. And the level down. And of course, reverb. Dampen. Lower the low. Lower the high. Lower the low some more. Lower the width. And shrink the room. And put it in a large room. Actually, I don't like that delay, so I'm going to turn it off. And then there's the EQ. I don't really feel I need to EQ this that much. So, there you go. There's your little pluck. Now we're going to go back to bass, presets, empty. There we go. Absolutely nothing here. So now we're going to make a bass. Turn both of these on. They're on -2 already. So when we play it like that, we just get a plain old sine wave. Now if you want a sub bass, this will do great. You can use that alone and you'll get more than what you need. A lot of strength, basically. But we don't want a sub bass. We want the bass we're going to be using, so we can use saw wave. for one of them. We're going to bring the saw wave up an octave. I'm going to turn on the filter. I'm going to set it to 16 decibels here and drop the cutoff. A little too much. 12 decibels will do the trick if we drop the cutoff a little more. There we go. 6 decibels and cut off like that. Now we can add, we're not going to add any effects there. And we want an amp thing here. Well, we don't actually. We want it to just go on and off. We want it to come on when we hit and go off when we hit. Now we do want to detune slightly, so we're going to hit the fine. There we go. Now we can turn this down to voices, down to 1. And that'll save us CPU power and bass. So hope that was informative. Oh, and I guess I should show you how I do my, like, what I use the gator for. Well, there's a preset plugin. There's a pluck preset. I think so. Replace with Trance Drive, and then turn off the delay, the reverb, go to the gator, create a pattern here, just like that, go into Trance Drive, and I think I forgot to turn the gator on. Yep, there we go. Basically, you can use that kind of thing to greatly, like, to do a good buildup of energy as you enter the song if you automate the frequency here. So, hopefully that was informative, and hope to see you back for more tutorials. Peace out.